Well, welcome. I want to start with saying you guys should congratulate yourselves for coming in the room today. So give yourselves a nice applause. So really, it's a big step to show up. So it's great that you've chosen to show up. And I want to start off by telling you a little bit about myself. So I was raised pretty much sort of a free spirit kid. Grew up in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills, and this is me about age 10. Motocross riding and things. Life was sweet and beautiful. And I was actually raised in LA, and really my father actually was in the fur industry of all places in Los Angeles. The third largest sales in LA of all the entire country, behind New York and Chicago. Why? Because celebrities bought fur coats back then. And it's really fascinating because one of the main influences in my life was my grandmother, and Grandma Rose. That's me in my sort of late teens, completely enamored with my grandmother. And she always used to say to me, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And it really sat with me. I didn't quite understand it when I was a kid because I was a teenager and I thought I was immortal, hence motorcycle riding and flying in the air. But that always stuck with me. And when she was in her mid-60s, she actually started doing yoga and did yoga for 20 plus years until she was 86 when she passed away. Was doing headstands, and I'll never forget, she used to, it was like a chair like these cut out in the middle, and she'd go up and get herself in these headstands prompted by the chair. And one day she said to me, my doctor told me to stop doing them, and I feel horrible. And I said, well, what do you mean? I was in med school at the time. And she had something wrong with her heart. It's called aortic stenosis in the heart valve. So cardiologists, of course, didn't know anything about yoga. And yoga wasn't that popular back then. And said, well, I haven't learned about this in med school, so it must be bad. So stop. So she did. Felt horrible. I said, Grandma, start doing your yoga again. See what happens. Sure enough, she did, and she felt great again. She's like, my constipation's much better. My bowels are moving. We used to go on these long walks after dinner. It was beautiful, these Sunday dinners we'd have as a family. And my father, who was in the fur industry, he used to love horses. This is him about my age, maybe a little younger than me. I'm 49, about to hit 50. He was probably 47, 48. And life was pretty sweet, for all of us. And then actually this sort of turn of events occurred when I was about 23 at the time. And I was just entering med school, and my dad, who was sort of robust, totally healthy, didn't like doctors, thought they were arrogant, sons of bitches, and which he's mostly correct, all of a sudden started not speaking quite the same, and something was going on. It turned out he had a brain tumor. And right around that same time, the fur industry imploded. I don't know if you remember in the late 80s, but it was in Europe, and PETA sort of got involved, and they were throwing blood on people wearing fur coats, and the kids, myself and my siblings, were also had issues with the fur industry, but that was my father's business, and he grew up in Brooklyn with 13 other folks in a 2-bedroom apartment, in Brooklyn, old Jewish sort of style environment, and really was a self-made guy. And all of a sudden, brain tumor, and his business was imploding. And 2 years later, this is my dad. 3 years later, what a difference! 2 or 3 years, right? He looks like he aged 20 years. It's amazing. And he passed away when he was 53, and he was diagnosed when he was 50 for a brain tumor that he had. He actually lived fairly long, but it was pretty powerful for me. We lost everything. We lost our house. We lost, his business was gone, and then he passed away. And it was such a powerful experience for all of us, and for me, that's really sort of rocked my world. And I never will forget, my grandmother who was saying to me, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. Money doesn't really matter. It's about your health, your quality of your time, who you spend time with, and feeling happy, and what do you do with your life? So that's really what's brought me to sort of be standing in front of you, have the courage to stand up here, stressed out as I may be, to speak before all of you, to really talk about how important this is. And this is sort of my grandparents at graduation at Stanford, in med school, feeling all proud. Of course, I'm wearing my grandpa's hat, and he's wearing the cap. Very powerful. I'll never forget, if you don't have your health, you really don't have anything. Money really doesn't matter. And so that's really what's brought me into my practice. And I've done martial arts since I was a child. And it really even deepened my commitment to, how do I maintain my sanity in the medical training and everything that I've gone through. And I'm a father and a husband and have like 5 pets and house and the crazy life. We have a new puppy who's 12 weeks old, running around silly. And really, for me, it's been my martial art training, which I've stuck with. And this is sort of me and my teacher in a Kung Fu magazine back in the mid-90s when I was in med school, actually. So what's come through this sort of experience in 20 years of practice has been what I've created, which is called the 6 Pillars of Healthy Living. And you'll see the booklets in front of you. We've shrunk our time today, so what I'd like you to do is peruse through it. There's a bit of an intro about me, an intro about the 6 pillars. There's an assessment I'd like you to take on the back end if you have time, or tonight when you have a break. And that assessment will go through each of these pillars, and you can sort of do a self-evaluation for yourself. And I want you to know that you will not get an A on this test, okay? I don't get an A on this test. So the areas you score well in are probably the areas that you like. And the areas that you don't do quite as well in are the areas you probably don't like. And my suggestion and my experience is focus on the areas in the middle. There's certain pillars that you'll feel mediocre about, but you're excited about and you want to improve on. That's the area you should focus on. And then on the back of this is some health tips, one for each pillar. And then finally on the back couple pages, in case you don't have a notepad, or you can write some notes as we go through the talk. If you have a notepad and you want to write it on your own pad, great, but there's some room there for you. So feel free to have the notepad, but otherwise you can disregard this for the rest of the talk, because I want to get you guys engaged. But look at this, if you would, at the back end of this talk or this evening. And these are the pillars. And what I have realized is, and I've written a book that's primarily for health professionals through the American College of Physicians, that's called An Evidence-Based Guide to Complementary and Alternative Medicine. And in that, I wrote about half the chapters and invited about 30 other leading scientists to contribute in cancer and gastrointestinal illnesses, et cetera. And we wrote this exhaustive book for the main organization for physicians in the United States, the American College of Physicians. On the back end of that, what did I realize? Conventional medicine, alternative medicine, lifestyle is the most potent medicine that we can all have. It's the most potent medicine, and we'll talk about this. And these are the 6 main domains that I've distilled down that have the greatest evidence and also are the most fun, right? And this will allow you to actually engage in your own life and your own livelihood rather than taking a pill, for example, or having to go to the doctor. This is you aware and engaged in your own life. So how many of you are somewhat in the sandwich generation? In other words, you have parents or in-laws, you have kids or pets, and you're sort of in the middle, maybe in a partner, and you're managing multiple people. So women are classically called in your demographic the chief health officer of the family. Would you agree with that? I mean, you are the chief health officer of your family. And your family is an extended family. It's a multi-generational family. And there's a huge amount of stress and reward that comes with that. But there's a huge amount. The demands are high. And then on top of it, you overachievers that you all are now in this very high-powered or very demanding or very exciting, depending how you look at it, career, where you have all that going for you as well. It's a full life you're all living. And it's a beautiful thing, but it also can be overwhelming at times. And the focus of this workshop is really to say, hey, let's find a few tools that you can walk out today with that will give you some ability to manage your own well-being, some resilience, what I call cultivating resilience. The ability, we have high-pressure jobs and lives. Curveballs are coming at us all the time, but occasionally there's a huge curveball that comes and will hit you, like, for example, my father's illness, for example. And the ability to be able to bounce back in those events, and they will happen to you, it's just a question of when, right? The ability to bounce back in the midst of those adversity, or maybe it's workplace adversity, you need that capacitance, that battery in reserve. And if you pull from these 6 domains and start to enrich each of those domains, you'll find that, first of all, they'll all float. The rest of the domains will start bubbling up. So you exercise more, all of a sudden you're sleeping better, and you're less irritable, and you're managing your stress better. Things will bleed into one another. So if you focus on one area, you'll find a huge results. So it's really interesting. We used to say you can't turn back time, right? You can't turn the clock back. Once you're 50, 40, 60 years old, basically over 35, it's over. It's all downhill from there, right? That's, thankfully, we've learned is not true. thankfully we've learned, there's some great research now that has shown, it's a great study, they took 15,000 people, they were aged 45 to 65 years of age. They followed them for 4 years. 8% of them lived healthy lifestyles, and 8% adopted a healthy lifestyle during those 4 years. Whether you adopted the healthy lifestyle or you had a healthy lifestyle coming into those 4 years, it turned out you were a third less likely to be dead and a third less likely to have a heart attack in just 4 years. So you take a 62-year-old woman or man, and they say, you know, my life's sort of written off already because I've covered so much mileage. It turns out if they adopted a healthy lifestyle, which means eating 5 servings of vegetables a day, exercising about 150 minutes a week, not smoking cigarettes, and maintaining a regular body weight, not being overweight. That's it. Those people are third less likely to be dead in 4 years. Shocking. So some people say, well, if I only could figure out when I'm going to die, go back 4 years, then I can live like I want, right? That's another approach, if you'd like. So, but you can turn back time. It's clear. And let's think about exercise for a moment, right? Some of us sort of are shunned by it, and some of us love exercise. How many people exercise regularly 5 days a week, let's say? How many people want to exercise 5 days a week? How many people redefine the regularly when I said 5 days a week? So here's the good news. The good news is you really only need 15 to 20 minutes of exercise a day. That's it. So the recommendations are 30 to 45 minutes a day. Turns out you don't actually need that much. 15 to 20 minutes a day makes a huge difference. And so my recommendations are do that every day if you can, 5 days a week. And you can build it into your schedule. So you take walking meetings. How often do you sit at the desk in a meeting with someone, right? Get up and walk for 15 minutes or 30 minutes. You can make it a more efficient meeting. And I know a few execs at Google that actually do just that. They say, you know, here's my calendar. If you want to meet with me, I have 2 hours where I walk. You're welcome to join me on my walks. If you don't want to join me on my walks, you're not going to meet with me. So that's that's how they structure it, which is fantastic. And it turns out it doesn't have to be as intense as you think it does. So you can just do a brisk walk, breathing, a little bit of heavy breathing, and a little bit of a sweat, and you're good to go. So at a minimum, that's what you should do. And that's my recommendation. Yeah?
The 7-minute workout?
Yes. Yes. I think you need 15 minutes. Do it twice. Yeah. If you can get some high intensity in there, great. My recommendations are really, if you could work out 6 days a week, 15 minutes. And 1 or 2 of those days you want to go for an hour, great. But don't do an hour twice a week. As you get older, your body, first of all, will rebel against you. It will start getting injured. And secondly, your metabolism, your mood, your sleep will change dramatically if you do a little bit every day. When you just do it twice a week, you don't get the same huge benefits, okay? So that's one take-home. If you take away one thing, that's a really important one. And this has sort of redefined my viewpoint on exercise. When I say, you got a dog, great, you must walk your dog. And they say, yes. Now I know better, right? You got to say, who's walking the dog? Are you in the car walking the dog, or how are you actually walking the dog? So what I'd like you to do, if you would, is stand up. And I want you to get a feel for a different kind of exercise that you maybe have never done before, which is a little bit of Tai Chi or martial arts of some sort. Has anyone ever done any Tai Chi? Okay, great. So we're just going to do a few minutes of it. I want you to get a sense of your body. So the first thing to do is just reach your hands up above the sky and give a big stretch. And it turns out, actually, when you put your hands up above your head or back like this actually improves your mood. It also changes the power dynamics in a meeting. So if you're ever interested in changing those power dynamics, I don't know if they talked about this in any of your other workshops, just lean back and do this. But the other thing is that by standing up and actually either just jumping like this, try that. You can try it in a meeting. Or even just clapping. Try. So you'll notice a couple of things. Did anyone notice anything? Yeah, so when you clap, and I don't understand the physiology fully yet, but dopamine gets enhanced, and actually you actually smile. People tend to get happier when they clap, which is great. So clap whenever you can. That's my attitude. Feeling low? Start clapping, And then raising your hands up and actually jumping, actually, like you said, brings your energy up. So really, so play with that. Now, the next thing I'd like you to do is close your eyes. Now, we're a little bit tight, so let's open our eyes. I don't want you to hit each other. So let's start with, put your hand out to the side with the palm facing up. Okay? Now turn it down. Now put it so the thumb's up. Now make a fist. Now I'd like you to come back towards your center and just hold yourself like this. Can you all see me? Okay, so I'd like you to draw a circle now. So I'm doing it a little bit higher so people in the back can see, but I'd like you to draw this circle with your arms. So nice and slow. And notice your breath while you're doing that. So I'd like you to exhale as you're going out, inhale as you're coming in. Now stop, close your eyes, don't move your arms, and notice where your arm and hands are without opening your eyes. Is your palm facing up, sideways, or is your thumb sticking out? I'd like you to bring, without opening your eyes, bring your fingers together if they're spread apart. Let your thumb go straight out so you form an L with it between your thumb and your first finger. Okay, and now everyone open their eyes and look at their hands. Pretty amazing. You can do that without using your eyes, right? So this is great. You can have a seat. So this is a great job. So this is really learning this a proprioception skill that we all develop. You ever get up in the middle of the night and you're going to the bathroom and you are trying to figure out what's going on and you maybe trip or kick over something? The ability as we age to actually have proprioception more and more refined in our body is really important. And there's a range of different things you can do to do that, whether it's through martial arts or it's through yoga. But to play with this a little bit with your eyes closed and just a bit of exercise. The nice thing about, for example, yoga or, for example, Tai Chi that we just did is it's a mind-body practice that is relaxing and calming and centering. It uses your breath. It's energizing. It's actually exercise as well. And it cultivates a lot of these proprioceptive skills as well. So if I was to recommend a few tips for exercise, the main ones would be, how are you going to make it happen? So what tricks do you guys use to get yourself to exercise on a regular basis? Those folks that are successful, what do you do?
Pay money for it.
Pay money. So money's great, because then you got showing, usually that means you're showing up. So maybe there's a trainer there. So someone's showing up saying, where are you?
I will come in on vacation.
Yeah, that's great. What else? Work out with someone. So you have that accountability, which is similar to what you're paying. So you get money and accountability on the trainer, and you go to accountability, which usually is a great driver because it's associated with shame, right? You don't show up. Someone's calling you saying, you're not showing up. What happened to you? Yeah.
Do it at the time of day where you have the most control, so earliest in the morning, because by the end of the day, I have no control.
Yeah, so do it early in the morning or whenever you have most control of your schedule. That's what I do. Otherwise, the day is gone. But some people have different schedules. You guys have great facilities at Mountain View, at least, is one example. You know, great facilities there. So take advantage of those. Yes? Yeah, so that's great. I can't pull that off, but those that can is fantastic. So when you need a break or if your energy level drops, let's say in the mid-afternoon or during your lunch hour, it's a great time to do that. Yes?
Be mindful the moment when you're about to eat that full pint of ice cream or 12 cookies.
That's so great. Yes.
That moment, just put on your speaker and go.
Yes. So that's called substituting a bad behavior for a good one. Yes, absolutely. So I'd like to shift and talk a little bit about food. So you may have seen this. So there's the food pyramid by the United States government. This is not that. This is modified by Harvard School of Public Health by Walter Willett as one of the chief sort of architects of this. And the take-home, this is somewhat complicated. You don't need to memorize it. And honestly, most of you guys probably know what you're supposed to eat anyway. But what's interesting here is the base is exercise. They take meat and they separate it out with red meat and butter up top, and the fish and the poultry is down the bottom, where you can have more of that stuff. The nuts, which are healthy fats, are at the bottom, whereas the ugly, nasty fats are up top. And they're obviously not sponsored by the Dairy Association, because you can see at the very top is where you had the butter and the milk and all the white flour goods. But really what I want you to just remember is if there's one thing to remember, is fill your plate with vegetables. If you can fill your plate with vegetables, you've done great. And for the most part, you can pretty much put whatever you want on the rest of that plate. So one thing to remember, this is pillar number 2, right? Healthy eating. Just fill half your plate with vegetables. So anyone know someone that smokes cigarettes? I won't ask you if you do. I'm just saying, do you know someone? Could be yourself. It turns out if you eat more than 5 servings of vegetables a day, you're 30% less likely to get lung cancer if you keep smoking compared to those that don't eat those vegetables. There's no medicine that powerful. So fill half your plate with vegetables, lunch and dinner. And with that, I'd like you to actually sample what it's like to eat a vegetable. And so these guys will spend a moment and let you enjoy, while we're chatting here today, some delicious red peppers. What's great about peppers and vegetables in general is what? What do you guys know about vegetables and why they're such wonderful things for us? Fiber's great. Vitamins. Crunchy. I love, that is why. Yes. Texture. What else? The colors is very bright and beautiful. What else? Tasty. Antioxidants. Yeah. So they are low in calories, high in nutrients. So these are phytonutrient-rich, dense foods. Right? What's the opposite of that, for example? Potato chips, Wonder Bread, lots of calories. Ice cream, not a lot of nutrients in it. Now, it's funny. I was talking to my wife last night as I was eating a little bit of ice cream, and she said to me, "Let me get this straight. Tomorrow you're going to go give a talk, and you're eating ice cream tonight?" And I said, "Yeah." So how do I eat my ice cream? I take a small little dish, and I literally take a baby spoon, and I eat my ice cream with a baby spoon. Why? Because I get just as many bites, spoonfuls, but I have much lower calories. I take a smaller serving. And the ice cream is so powerful in its flavor that actually you don't notice the difference. My kids don't like that strategy, but... So I'd like you to enjoy these while we continue the conversation. So pillar number 3. So we've covered exercise, or what I call active living, which is posture and just sort of movement, engagement. Then we talked about healthy eating, which is our relationship to food, as well as sort of what we're eating. And number 3 is sleep. Who gets enough sleep? Raise your hand if you get enough sleep. Wow, what's your secret? How do you get enough sleep? Go to bed early, go to bed early. Everyone's saying they go to bed early. So that requires a lot of actually willpower and also a lot of planning. So if you do get to bed early, you wake up earlier or not, and you can sleep in and still get away with it. So that's terrific. What else do people do that allows them to wake up feeling refreshed? How many nappers do we have in the room? How many people that like to nap? Let's start with that. Okay, so I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to think about strategies to actually get a nap in. And I love, there's a guy named Professor Dement who's at Stanford, and he's pretty much emeritus at this point. He's 80. And he says, sleep, it's one of the few moments in your life where you can be actively insane. And no one knows, right? Quietly insane every night of your life. I had the craziest dreams last night. You wake up like, wow, what was that about? So it turns out that we actually don't get enough sleep as a country. We have an economic debt. We have a huge sleep debt. You guys familiar with this sleep debt? We, on average, 6.9 hours of sleep a night. This is about a decade ago. In the 60s, it was about 9 hours a night. So we've changed dramatically. And if you're thinking that there's a great New York Times article that looked at, they called sort of the second honeymoon, where they, pre-industrialized era, where there weren't lights, it would go dark, and then people would sort of go to sleep relatively early, right? Sort of you're out in the rural farm, in the rural areas, you tend to do that, although the internet can interfere with that. And so they go to sleep, so let's call it 8 o'clock. They wake up maybe around 11 or 12. They stay up for a couple hours. They write. They make love. They do whatever they do. They go back to sleep around 2 and 3 in the morning. They get up around 6 or 7. They've got 8 hours of sleep in a 12-hour period because they were in bed starting a lot earlier. And no one's stressed about it. Whereas we now as a culture freak out if we wake up in the middle of the night. And how do we get ourselves back to sleep? And part of the issue is we're going to bed so late, right? So if you pull back the dial and get into bed earlier, if you do wake up in the middle of the night, don't worry about it. You've got many more hours ahead of you. How many people ever feel a little sleepy between 2 and 4 in the afternoon? And so what if you notice influences that? Coffee. So that helps you, gives you the boost. Oh, post-coffee. Yep. Great. For some people, actually, they can have it in the morning. It keeps them going all day. And others, that's about right. 4 hours. What else? Lunch. So depending what you eat for lunch. So the way I get my vegetables in every day is basically I have a salad every day. And I throw some stuff on it. And a lot of people say, well, I don't feel full, especially big guys. They want to be full. So I say, eat a huge salad. Easy. Like huge, huge salad. And you can do that at Google because you can self-serve, right? And add protein and fats. So add nuts, add cheese. Those have good fat and protein. Why? Because the protein will actually keep you satiated longer. It's a fuel source that lasts longer. And the fats make your brain actually feel more satiated as well. So change what you do for lunch. Also, we're most tired between 2 and 4. So there's 2 times of the day that we get most tired, 10 o'clock at night and around 3 in the afternoon. So that's normal, hence the siestas that happen in Europe, right? So it's actually good to take advantage and think about that a little bit. And before we talk about that, I just want you to know that as you sleep through the night, REM is dreaming. So when you're dreaming, you dream longer and longer as you go through the night, as you go through these cycles. The other thing to notice is that stage 3 and 4 of sleep, when you're not dreaming, which are the deeper ones here, get longer and longer. And those deep stages are the ones that allow you to actually regenerate. And human growth hormone gets released during those stage 3 and 4 of sleep. You get a pulse, which allows your immune system to actually kick in and get more restorative and allows your brain to rewire and actually sort of regenerate itself, and your body for that matter. So getting the sleep is great. If you wake up in the middle of the night and for a little bit and then go back to sleep, you actually will drop right back into this rhythm. So how do you wake up feeling refreshed? How many people wake up feeling, yes?
I got one of these bands that measured your REM
Yes.
sleep, and then I just got super anguished because I realized that I was never in deep sleep or not as much as I wanted.
Yeah.
But I didn't find any article that actually taught you or gave you tips on how to increase your deep sleep. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes. So we'll talk about that. And if you do mind-body practices, whether it's meditation or yoga or martial arts, Tai Chi, or other things that you like to do that will actually shift your nervous system, you'll drop into that. And I'll show you that actually later today. So, anyone know who this is? Yeah. Love that mustache, right? So he was a famous napper, and he said it gave him his genius. Salvador Dali gave him his genius. You know, Bill Clinton, famous napper. John Rockefeller loved to nap. And they all said it actually revived and regenerated them. So how many people, when they nap, wake up feeling really groggy? Yeah. So, you know his trick? Short naps. He would hold a spoon. And when that spoon hit the ground, his nap was done. So and that's 10, 15 minutes. And with that, if you sleep under 20 minutes, then it keeps you in stage 1 or 2 of sleep. You don't drop into the deep sleep. But you wake up feeling a lot more refreshed. So set a timer or hold a spoon and try that trick. Lots of famous people love to nap. I mean, if you just look, right? These guys are all caught on camera napping. And they are... So don't feel bad if you're feeling low energy and stress. These guys are too. Yes?
Just for the stage 1 and 2 thing, I experienced it when I took a nap, if I'm laying down, I'm not asleep yet, because I don't know, this is an engineering thing, I don't know when I'm starting to sleep, so I don't know when I should start to sleep.
Yes. Do it for 15 minutes. Yep. Just whatever's going on, just go into it for 15 minutes. On the back end, you're done. And you'll find that it'll start to shift over time. And just say, I got my timer on, or I got my spoon in my hand. And since if I'm never falling asleep, then maybe I need the timer behind it because I'm holding that spoon and it's been an hour, you know. So set your timer for 15 minutes, and then that goes off.
So I have heard, excuse me, that having coffee before you fall asleep because
Yes.
it's about 15 to 20 minutes
Correct.
to work the caffeine.
So she's heard that drinking coffee before you nap is a good trick. It actually is an interesting one that does work physiologically. So basically, you drink your coffee, then you take your nap. Don't wait too long. And it does take a while for it to kick in. So if you do a 15, 20-minute nap, you're good to go. You wake up, and people tend to wake up feeling a little bit less sluggish. So it's sort of interesting. Anyone ever seen this and know where that's located? This is in the land of Google. You Googlers, you should know this. So this is a huge statement if you ask me. This says it's okay to nap in your work culture. Now, whether how true that is another conversation that we can't do in 45 minutes today. But this really does say, you know what, you can go ahead and do this, and you're getting your work done. That's really what matters.
And you can find more information at Go Naps.
Go
I'm
naps.
not kidding. And it will tell you about the times and also good locations in particular offices to nap.
Great. Did you all hear that? Go Naps will tell you where are good locations, when are the good times to nap. So number one advertising medication in America, sleep medication. For good reason, right? Well, lots of people have difficulty sleeping. There's lots of alternatives to taking medications, which have lots of side effects and can be problematic for people. So there are herbal medicines to take. Anyone try any? What works for you? Melatonin's a good one. What else? Come on, you guys. Bach flowers. So that's aromatherapy, Bach flowers. Valerian, which smells like stinky socks, if you've ever smelt it. Some people wake up with a headache, but that's actually really an effective one as well. Passion flower, hops. There's a range of different things that people can try. And I recommend you actually explore some different herbs to see if that helps, because it can be quite helpful. But even more potent, and they've done this in randomized controlled trials, is doing mind-body practices. So I recommend folks do, and I do this as my ritual, 15 minutes at least once a day, preferably twice a day. And sometimes I'll do 5 minutes in the morning and 5 at night. I do a bit of yoga, and that helps sort of wind me down. And sometimes, I'm up at 2 a.m. working to 2 a.m. I do that sometimes. It's not. I know I preach not to do that, but I do that. I live and breathe the struggle that we all experience. And at 2 a.m., my wife Julia will wake up and say, "What are you doing? Get to sleep." But I need to do a little bit of yoga, unwind my body and my mind, and then I can drop into a deeper sleep and stay asleep. And so you're more likely to drop into a deeper sleep if you unwind your body and your mind. And nice ways to do that are, for example, or yoga or martial arts, doing gentle Tai Chi, for example. Has anyone ever experienced that? And has it been helpful? Yeah. So there's a couple options also. You can read organic chemistry. That puts people to sleep pretty well. But there's basic bedroom hygiene that I recommend that you do. So what is the bedroom for? And what else? Sex. Right? Intimacy. So what's it not for? Working, watching TV, reading organic chemistry, eating. Yeah, so, and having heated conversations. And I learned this in real time, about 5, 10 years ago with my wife, because I unwind, I come home, we can talk. It's 8 o'clock at night. The last thing she wants to do is get into planning for next year, or all these things, and then she goes to bed carrying these thoughts and I'm really good at compartmentalizing. So that's sort of the negotiation that is, we don't have those sort of conversations past 8 o'clock at night. And you definitely don't have them in the bedroom, right? So if you're gonna have a heated conversation, leave the bedroom. And really it'll create a ritual for you that the bedroom, and it'll condition you that the bedroom is for sleep or intimacy and not for these other activities. So how many of you have your Android or your smartphone by your bedside? Okay. So erase all the other things I've said today about the exercise 15 minutes, fill your plate, half your plate with vegetables, and nap. If you do one thing today, take your smartphone and put it in another room outside your bedroom. Okay, let me back up. I'm sorry. Buy an alarm clock. Okay, why do I say that? Because let me ask you, the same people that raise their hand, how many of you, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is check your phone and look at your email? Okay, so that will orient you. That will orient you towards your day. And how many of you, more than 50% of the time, read one email that's not the most positive email? Okay? So if you want to start your day with a good set point and you want to be creative, innovative, you want to actually have a positive attitude, do something that's really important to you the first 5 minutes of your day. Not be directed by what's coming at you. Okay? So recreate your set point. It's really important. One thing I would say is buy an alarm clock and then move that smartphone into another bedroom. And do it for 1 week. I'll pay you the $20 for the alarm clock. Just do it for 1 week and see if it makes a difference.
I also read that couples that don't have a TV inside their room have like lower chances of divorce.
They don't have activities inside
No,
technology, TV. That's interesting. I don't know that research. So this is cute cartoon, and the point of this for me is cognitive behavioral therapy. So in your mind's browser, clear your cache. Now delete your history. Now navigate to a blank page. Web page, that is. So cognitive behavioral therapy actually has been shown to be more powerful for sleep than drugs, believe it or not. Randomized controlled clinical trials. So what is cognitive behavioral therapy? It's really learning to become aware when you're having ruminating thoughts and then insert a phrase or a redirecting concept so that you redirect into the present moment and have current thinking. So cognitive behavioral therapy, there's something else called mindfulness-based stress reduction, and they've combined those, so now it's called mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which so you have the awareness, the mindfulness, when you're realizing that you're ruminating on, perseverating on stuff, and then you go and do cognitive therapy sort of maneuver. This isn't about figuring out your childhood and what happened to you in psychotherapy. This is pure, this is very sort of linear, logical, the cognitive behavioral therapy piece. So the fourth pillar to focus on is mental focus and cultivating resilience and how do you stay in the present moment. And it turns out, we used to think when you hit about age 20, it's all downhill when it comes to our neural connections. And thank God that's not true. So actually when you hit 20, your frontal cortex actually gets a lot more neural connections. And what happens in the frontal cortex? Sort of executive function, rational reasoning, creative sort of innovation, frontal cortex. And that actually, between the ages of 20 to sort of when you're a young adult, actually starts really shifting. It also turns out that as you can shift the balance in the right and left hemispheres, and by shifting that balance, you can actually shift from becoming a pessimist to becoming more optimistic. You can increase your neural connections also, so you have more neuroplasticity, even as an adult, through meditation practices. And again, yoga fits into that, Tai Chi fits into that, or sitting meditation, or prayer, for that matter, does as well. So there's a great story I'd like to share about these two monks that were walking through the forest. They came upon a river that they were going to cross. And they were on their way to the monastery. And some woman came up and said, "Can you please carry me across the river?" And these monks are not supposed to be exposed to really talking to women. And this woman happened to eat meat, and they don't eat meat, so she smelled different. And they could actually literally smell the difference. And she was actually quite rude to them. And the older monk said "Yeah, I'm happy to carry you across the river." The younger monk was not happy and said, "I don't understand, brother." And he lifted her and carried her across the river. And they finally reached their destination. They're having dinner. And the younger monk said to the older monk, "I don't understand. You carried her across the river. We're not supposed to be talking to these or interacting with women. You sort of went against the adage of what we're supposed to be doing." And he said, my young monk, who is still thinking about this? Who's still carrying this woman across the river, me or you?" And the older monk is the blue line. The older monk is the red line, and the younger monk is the blue one, right? The blue one is, this event occurred, but we're still thinking about it. It happened in the past, but still ruminating about it, versus the older monk that sort of has moved on and let it go. And the key is, how do we learn to do that? And that will drop you into deeper states of sleep. That will prevent us from waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to get back to sleep. Yes?
So can I
Yes. So not being in the present moment. And which is, a good time for me to, anyone? Those people are basically slugs. They don't create any response to, you don't want them as employees. So I don't know if any of you remember,
You are
anyone
too
seen it?
concerned with what was and what will be. There's a saying, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present.
Who's seen that movie? Yeah, love that. Love that. So I'd like to get a volunteer. Who can remember their childhood sort of songs? Yeah, you guys remember your songs you used to sing when you were kids? Yeah? No? So who would like to get up and sing one for me? Okay, since you have the Wharton shirt on, come on up. So just get yourself comfortable. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I want to hook you up, and I want us to sort of get a sense for our own physiology here. Let me see if I can get this to. Might need Micah's help here. Can you guys see that? So we're really excited to have you up here. And first of all, I want to thank you for coming up, and we can all give a little applause for this. So I'm just going to hook this up to your ear. And what I'd like you to experience is what it feels like to be a little bit stressed. Understandably stressed, right? So there's an interesting facet called heart rate variability. Has anyone ever heard of heart rate variability? So we've heard of our heart rate. Let's see if we get this thing working here. Great. And heart rate variability is when our heartbeat goes from one beat to the next. We actually want variability in the timing of that heartbeat. So we actually don't want it fixed like this. That's actually a bad thing. When it's fixed like this, you're more likely to have back injuries, more likely to be sick from work. If you're in the hospital, you're more likely to die. If you had a heart attack, you're more likely to have another heart attack and come back in the hospital again. And typically, when we're chronically stressed under high demands, we have a lot of fixed heart rate, not a lot of variability. And in acute stress situations like we have going on now, which is normal, what you'll have is low variability, and that's what the red graph is showing us, which is normal. So don't feel abnormal about that. That's expected. What I'd like you to now do is I'd like us to sort of spend a moment and just practice a breathing practice together. So if you would, uncross your legs, feel comfortable, sit comfortably on the table, in the chair, and just notice your breathing. And if you want, you can close your eyes, or you can let them be slightly looking down about 6 feet in front of you. Notice your breath. And then allow yourself to count your breath. I'd like you to breathe in for a count of 4, pause, and exhale for a count of 6. So as we breathe in, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. As we exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just keep repeating that. Breathe in for a count of 4. And allow your body to be rooted like the mountain, and your mind to be clear like a blue sky. Rooted in the present moment. If thoughts come through, which they will, just allow them to pass through like clouds across the sky. And you breathe in and then exhale. Breathe in and exhale. I'd like you to imagine you're on a warm beach, lying on your back, sun is warm, sand is warm. You can hear the ocean in the background, birds chirping. You could smell the salt water. You could taste it on your lips. And just keep following your breath. And when you're ready, I'd like you to come back to the room. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your feet. And I'd like you to notice that there's been a shift. This didn't pick up all your heartbeats, so you can't see it all. But if you come over and look, you can see it started to shift over towards the left in blue. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to relieve you of the responsibility to sing. So, but thank you for coming up. And if you notice, the stress of the demand was still here. You were going to sing. But by just redirecting your attention into the present moment, right, all of a sudden things shifted. Did you feel a difference at all in your body?
Yeah, I felt really relaxed.
You felt relaxed, yeah. It stopped capturing it all, actually. So you started shifting towards the blue and green, and then it stopped recording because it got not an ideal connection. But you still had the same stressor in front of you, right? But by just bringing you down and centered, it shifted it. And my recommendation, before you walk into stressful meetings or stressful conversation with your partner, you could do this this took 3 minutes. You can do it in really a breath. And find the time to just drop in 2 minutes and do a breathing practice, and then walk into your meeting. You'll find a huge shift in your perspective, feeling grounded, and literally physiologically, things will shift in your body. So let me just bring this. Yeah. Yeah. So the last two pillars I want to mention, and I'll mention them briefly to you, are number one is, which is the fifth one, which is connection and relationship. Relationship to ourselves, relationship to nature, and to family. And, I love this phrase. And when you think about sort of the importance of family, this is my family, my kids. When you think about the importance, I want you to reflect, and if you could jot down, if you had an emergency, who are the 4 people you might call? And if you can't think of those, when you go home tonight, it's something for you to reflect on and bring into your life. Who are the 4 people you would call if you had an emergency? The importance of relationship is huge. It's been shown associated with Alzheimer's disease. If you're feeling lonely, having connection is actually an incredibly healing experience at multiple levels. This is us in Zurich. These are all fellow Googlers in one of our retreats, and that sense of having fun and community is really quite powerful. And the final pillar, which is the 6th one, which is finding passion and meaning in our lives. And if you could just choose one thing, what would it be? For me, it's surfing. I'm not very good at it, as you can see from this photo. If you know anything about surfing, I'm not very good. But I love it. And so for me, spending time with family and making time for surfing, and doing this work that I'm doing right here today is the most powerful thing. And if you could come up with one thing, what would that be for you? What would that be for you? And I think it's so important for us to spend time reflecting on this, and I feel that we did it in 45 minutes, 50 minutes. To take time to just really smell the roses and experience what it's like to enjoy ourselves. And feel free to take one of these flowers with you as you leave today and just enjoy them and smell them. There's a range of resources here at Google and outside of Google, and I listed some of them here. If you want to focus on one thing and make a change in your life, there's a great resource, tinyhabits.com, which is, these folks are from Stanford, BJ Fogg, and you can choose one thing that you want to change, and it actually will walk you through the program and send you emails automatically to help you create that change in your life. The Power of Habits is also a great one for both yourself as well as a leader and as executives. And Minds at Work, those folks engage with Google already, They do great work out of Harvard. And there's an app that Erica will speak more to called Headspace that is available for you on GLearn, if my memory is correct.
If you want, it's for your phone, and you can do it on Android or iPhone, and it's a meditation app, different length of meditations. If you want a license, we have them available for all of you. So just go to Mindspace license and sign up, and we'll get it to you. And I can also email you all the Go link. And there are lots of well-being resources on Grow, which if you had a chance to see the booth out there, so for you, for your teams, and if you want to spend a whole day with Dr. Brad rather than just this super condensed 50 minutes, the Sustaining High Performance programs are on Grow, and as well as mindfulness-based stress reduction, search inside yourself, all sorts of different well-being
Resources for you. So yeah, there is the HSP. This is normally a 5-hour, 6-hour workshop that I've condensed. So if you want to do more of this sort of work and actually create plans, create changes in your life, feel free to sign up. We have about 9 of them running in 2014. So thank you for your time. I know you have the next thing to go do. And enjoy the flowers. Don't forget to smell the roses. And enjoy the rest of your time.
Thanks.